What's a rich people thing you experienced once and immediately understood why rich people love it? The build quality and style of their home. This person was very wealthy, but also rather private. He didn't flaunt his wealth in public, but he obviously had an eye for how to design a very nice house that would still be nice in 30 to 50 years and not look out of place, aged or tacky. Massive block of land, meticulously landscaped. The property was broken up into separate discrete structures that seamlessly connected to each other. No over-the-top features, high ceilings, sturdy fixtures, very well insulated, not quite passive house, but close. When I walked around, it's as if someone had looked at every single space of that property and thought, how do we make this perfect? I could genuinely not find a single thing I disliked. The guest house was nicer than most houses I've ever been in. I've been to mansions where people are showing off, but this really showed a sense of style and quality I've not seen since. I'm a teacher and a huge 49ers fan. A good friend of mine lives in LA. I was going to visit him one time, and I guess he told someone at his church that I was coming to visit and that I was a teacher. Apparently, this person is very well off and has a soft spot for teachers, so he gave my friend his whole setup for the 49ers versus Rams game in LA that Sunday. VIP parking a separate lot from everyone else, like 20 feet from the VIP entrance to the stadium. To put this in perspective, when I go to 49ers games, I park so far away, it takes like 30 minutes to walk to the stadium. VIP passes, that got us on the sidelines. Front row seats in the VIP section, free food and alcohol from the club. It was insane. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. Tailored clothing, wore a shirt that actually fit once, spent the next 10 years angry at every shirt I'd ever owned.
My ex had a sales job back in the days where sales reps still wore suits and ties every day. But he was in construction sales, which meant he wasn't behind a desk. He was outside, climbing ladders, crouching, in both summer sun and winter snow. Off-the-rack suits just weren't able to withstand that type of movement in a daily grind. They were too hot in the summer and too thin in the winter, and we finally got tired of having to throw out a new suit that did a crappy job after 6 months. So we went to a local men's tailor to get 2 suits for him to rotate between to start. They still existed even in towns back then. Oh my God. The level of expertise and service was something neither of us had ever encountered before, or since in many ways. I learned so much from that one appointment that I have used the rest of my life. They asked so many questions about how the suits would be worn and used, like I still don't understand how some of it would have remotely been relevant. But after all the questions were answered, they came out with 2 fabric choices for him, and both of them were green. They weren't like bright green, just definitely a dark, warm gray that had an obvious greenish undertone to them. When I asked why it was green and not the standard gray or black, the guy just looked at me and said, "Because it will look best on him, he needs earth colors and brown will overwhelm him." Like, what do you even say to that? Neither of us had ever heard men care about their colors before. Edit, and no, the guy wasn't gay. It wasn't said in a gay or effeminate way. He was simply stating a fact. I said something about with how much the suits cost, it would be nice to have one of them be appropriate for funerals, and the guy just looked at me and said, "The suit for the funeral is the one to buy off the rack and have altered. The suits he's going to live in every day should be for him." And again, it just made so much sense. But we weren't raised to think that way back then. One of the fabrics was very light and gauzy while still opaque, for summer, and the other was thicker and denser for cooler seasons. He advised that if my ex needed a true cold weather suit to come back closer to fall, when he'd have better suited fabrics and would know how his current order was working for him. Those suits were works of art. They were specially cut in such a way that the pants were loose in the seat and crotch, so he could crouch and climb and move without restriction and without pulling on the seams, but they looked just like normal suit pants. The jacket had some construction in the shoulders that allowed his arms to move freely to climb a ladder without the shoulders coming up around his head. And I'm sure there were so many more little things we didn't even realize were done that made these suits work in a very specific way while still making him look really, really good. And they lasted. The summer one did get a nasty tear in the pant leg from something it caught on at a job site, but the tailor repaired it in such a way that you couldn't even see where it had been. He hasn't worked in sales since 2008, but he still has both of them. Just now, they're his wedding/funeral suits. Our oldest son expects he'll get them in the will. I feel so bad for this generation because they have no idea the quality of goods that they're missing out on. Those suits were moderately expensive, yes, but they literally have lasted 30 years and still look brand new. And they weren't crazy priced because if we didn't like that shop's prices, there was another tailor on the other side of town we could buy from. That expertise was available almost everywhere. It seems to only exist in large cities anymore. A first-class lie-flat seat on a long-haul flight. I showed up tired, ate real food with a metal fork, put on pajamas, and slept horizontally at 35,000 feet. Got off the plane like a human being. No neck pain, no regret. Suddenly understood why people never go back.
I used to date an au pair for a rich doctor couple. So not extravagantly wealthy, but rich. We got to use their vacation home pretty much when we wanted. We got to drive their top-of-the-line cars to go places. It was great. She worked hard, which was mostly just long and annoying hours, but they paid her an insane amount of money. I was working as an engineer and her bonus at Christmas was significantly more than mine. I work in UHNW households, and the main thing that stands out, particularly in the billionaire class, is how helpful it is to have staff that manage your life. When I'm flown out for a job, they have their personal assistant manage/book/pay for all the logistics for me, my flight, travel, and transportation. So all I have to do is show up with my license, chef knives, and uniform. It's an insane kind of peace of mind you get to have, and it allows you to focus on the things you'd prefer. Whenever I communicated with a client's point of contact, I was given an answer and solution promptly. When I was trying to extend a rental car at the airport, the rental agency wouldn't let me do it until my departure flight was changed. I texted the chief of staff asking if they could update my flight when they had a moment, and within 10 minutes, I had the updated reservation to share. Efficiency is priceless, and it's one of the most valuable non-tangible things you can buy via affording people whose baseline is excellence. I'm a doctor and do a bit of contract work and have done some for super wealthy people. As you said, I just show up and get driven/flown around and it's easy, as you kind of expect. The one time that stuck out was when the PA booked my hotel for the following weekend by mistake. The hotel was fully booked that night as there was a local function nearby. I called her up and within half an hour there was a car to get me from a very remote place and take me to an even nicer and properly luxury hotel. I was also paid a stupid bonus for the hassle. Rich people just, I don't know, man. It's confusing. I can't really make amends with the fact that there really is a lot of people out there who just have impossible to fathom cash.
My mom was a pediatrician for some very impressive people's children. She also organized medical mission trips to Southeast Asia. One year we got stuck in the country we were working in due to the protests in Thailand closing the airport. We couldn't get a flight anywhere, and this was in the era where we'd have to go to an internet cafe to try to connect to anyone to book flights. And the airlines we needed to go through were leery of booking international flights if the name on the credit card did not match at least one person on the reservation. It was a mess. Out of desperation, my mom emailed one of her clients' personal assistant asking for help. Mind you, besides a yearly donation to my mom's charity and my mom being the pediatrician for his many children, this client had nothing to do with this trip. The next morning we had "We're working on booking you flights and we have a private plane ready to fly into the country you're in if we can't book you on an airline." Please give all relevant booking details for all members of your trip. By that afternoon, we all had flights home.
Regular spa and massage. This is my answer. I'd love to get a weekly, even monthly massage. Night nurse when you have a new baby. Even 3 times per week when you have a newborn is just amazing. If you have a bad night and don't get much sleep, knowing you'll get a full night's sleep the next night totally changes your mindset. We did this. If you're breastfeeding, you don't get the full benefit. But it was so nice to have someone else there to make sure you had everything you needed. My husband has a generous paternity leave, but he spent the 4 nights I was in the hospital basically not sleeping and doing most of the heavy lifting while I was recovering from a C-section. So when we got home, he desperately needed the sleep. Having the night doula there to attend to the baby when they first woke up, come get me for feedings, make sure I had enough water or a snack, and then quietly disappear while I fed the baby was awesome. They even came back in to check on me, to make sure I hadn't fallen asleep with the baby in my arms. When he was done feeding, I could hand the baby back for her to settle and go back to sleep. It was wonderful for the first 2 weeks. Allowed me to actually recover from major surgery. Before getting into the thick of things, allowed my husband to get some much-needed sleep so he could be present. As first-time parents, we had an expert in newborn care that we could ask questions of. It really just made everything so much easier. I think we did 5 or 6 overnights in those first 2 weeks, and then had someone come in once or twice a week for 3 hours during the day. Golden ticket at Disney World. I was a radio DJ and invited to broadcast my show from Hollywood studios for the grand opening of their new American Idol attraction. Yeah, it was a while ago. Going into my studio, I bumped into Ryan Seacrest coming out of his studio. But one of the perks was a golden fast pass. I could go up to any machine and put the card in and get as many passes I wanted for that immediate time and get in the short line. I was giddy, but I had this new power. I couldn't not share it. I started walking up to couples in the back of the line, an hour wait, and said, "Just the 2 of you? Bam, here's 2 passes, go now." I would go up to machines and grab like 6 passes and hand them out. "4 of you? Here, skip the line." It was an intoxicating power. I felt rich. But unlike the wealthy, I shared my fortune. I've had a few rich person experiences while being solidly middle working class. 17-hour Australia to USA flight. I've gone first class twice with Qantas in an A380, thanks to a doesn't even happen once in a lifetime staff travel upgrade that I got twice. If you can upgrade with points on a flight any longer than 4 hours, do it. You're a person on the plane and not just cattle to prod till you land. Also stayed in the best suite on a world-class cruise ship. We got lucky with a room upgrade since no one else bid. And no one paid for that suite, LOL. $15,000 room down to $1,500, and we had all the perks. 2-story room, wrap-around balcony with a jacuzzi and one in the main bathroom. A self-playing piano, priority everything. Staff would actively go out of their way to assist Wise with everything. The icing on the cake was our butler Birdie, who we could message to make anything happen. We felt bad that those people had to babysit us, so we were as polite and easy and out of the way as we could be, haha. Man, I want to be rich because the nice life is nice. I work customer service heading an escalations team and get yelled at by crotchety old physicians all day. I earned this, LOL. Private chef, for sure. Worked for this rich guy in Vegas for a couple of years and would fly out there once a month. Imagine waking up whenever you wanted every day. And healthy, delicious food that you didn't have to think about was just ready and hot with zero effort on your part. One of my dad's cousins was the lab student who discovered that cisplatin interferes with DNA replication, making it one of the earliest chemotherapy drugs. It was discovered in the late 60s and first used in the mid-70s for chemo, then patented in 1978, I think. He, two others, and MSU split a patent worth several $100 million. He paid for all 4 years of my undergraduate degree at a private college. Spent well over $100,000 without blinking an eye. The thing is, he did it for every single cousin, their kids, and his own biological kids. About 15 people total. Best gift I've ever received. I get why education is super important. I did so many rich people things with him and his family as a normie. It was so cool. Tailor-made clothing, nowhere near as expensive as one might think, but so incredibly worth it from a fit, comfort, and warmth perspective. For what I once paid for a Zegna superfine merino suit, I'd get 3 superfine merino tailored suits with 2 pants that 15 years later still get comments. Having enough money that small problems stay small, like your car breaks, your laptop dies, surprise medical bill, appliance stops working, etc., and it's annoying instead of life destabilizing. That level of peace honestly feels like the real luxury more than fancy stuff. What your rich people thing, write in the comment